Welcome to the Allen Americans podcast, coming to you from the studios of Frito Nation here in Allen, Texas. Mark Friedman, good friend and a longtime radio personality in Dallas, Fort Worth. If you'd like to set up a podcast, contact Mark at frito-nation.com. He can grow your business. And Barry Janssen joins us from his home this morning. Barry, great to see you. Looking good?
Hey, it's good to be with you, Tommy. After, I was just thinking, during the off season, I come over to the office a couple times a week and we get a chance to chat and talk to the rest of the guys. And with Marty, it's really been tough this year without having that opportunity, but at least we get to talk on the phone and keep up to date. So I'm glad I could join you today.
Absolutely. Been looking forward to catching up with you. And let's start with quarantine life for Barry Janssen and your family, you and Nancy. How you been doing?
Well, we've been, we're in that risk category. I'm 72, so we've been staying close to home. I do a bike ride with my buddy, 22 miles every morning. But other than that, yesterday I went to the doctor. I broke my collarbone December 31st, and it still hasn't healed right. And so I did a virtual meeting, and he asked me to come in. And so it was the first time since March 14th I had been in any other store or building. So that was a little nerve-wracking yesterday. But we're doing fine. We're doing fine. We have no complaints. Hey, before we get started, I want to tell you how enjoyable this new effort of your podcast is. I think we should call it, Throwback Tommy Daniels, because it's like you're going into a studio every day and recording just like the old days. But I haven't missed a one, and I particularly like the ones with the former players, and I know you still have a lot of those planned in the future, but you're doing a great job with this. And, I think the fans are looking for things because our off season is so long. Just a great job.
Well, thank you, Barry. I appreciate that. And it was one of those things of how are we going to keep people engaged and not forget about us. And so, we talked about it and said, hey, let's see what we can do. And, it's so easy. The great thing is for these players, Brett Pollock in Canada, or, you sitting in your home, just across the way from us here. And it makes it easy. And all you have to do is find the time during the day for somebody to give us 10 or 15 minutes. And like Chad Costello said to me that day when he was, I believe, sitting in his bathroom in Germany, hey, what else am I going to do? So it's great to catch up with these guys. Did you happen to see our most recent one with Jamie Shaftsma? I
did. And I said to myself, Shaftsma's so good. I think you asked him one or two questions and he just went on, and it was captivating to hear. Of course, he was one of the first guys that I did a long profile on, so I had heard that whole story of his traveling to the Netherlands and then going to Italy and Germany and back to Italy. So it's a great story. He didn't mention, his first two kids were both conceived in Italy. Nicole always mentions that, but he didn't. And I think he went to 8 straight championship finals. I mean, he was like the championship finals guy, and he didn't win a lot until he got here. But he's a guy. His leadership qualities are just kind of off the chart. I had a player just tell me recently, I put up the 15-16 championship video that you had. It was the final game and the celebration. And a player got a hold of me. I won't mention his name, but he said, that year we were playing as much for Shaftsma as we were for anybody else. I mean, he had us all loving each other and together. So I think he's a pretty special player for sure.
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy. One of the best captains, if not the best captain we've ever had. He's awesome. And the list can go on and on of great leadership people we've had with the Allen Americans. But, yeah, it was great to catch up with Jamie. He still looks the same. I said, kid, you're 37 years old now. Much like Costello, he never seems to age. Of course, he's got the great do going there. He credits his wife, Nicole, for setting that up. And you can tell by his boys, Sutter and Sullivan, they kind of follow in the old man's footsteps there. They have the great hair.
Yep. Hey, I wanted to turn the tables on you a little bit today.
Sure.
And ask you a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
First of all, I know this came out on social media, so I thought would be interesting to ask you. Which one of the 4 championships is your favorite?
Well, I have two, Barry, and the only reason why I say I have two that are my absolute favorite, the Wichita one, because it was the first, and the South Carolina one, because that was the one that nobody gave us a chance. And I remember there was a lot of, chatter going on early in the year. Well, Allen might be good because they're playing everybody from the Central Division, but let's see how they do when they fare against some of the best in the ECHL. And we went into Ontario and won that series, although difficult, had to come back to do it. And then beat South Carolina. Took 7 games, but guess what? We got it done. And everybody remembers the long winning streak they had that year. So I can't pick just one. It is two. Two are my favorite. They're all special, right? Because you get a ring, and it's nice to celebrate in the last game of the year. But I would definitely say the first one against Wichita and South Carolina were definitely my two favorites.
Yeah, I would answer that the same. How about, I have a different answer for this question. What do you think was the most talented team that Allen ever had? And my answer is, I would pick 2. Neither one of them made it to the finals.
Well, I know where you're going with one, and definitely the 2011 team that lost to Shreveport. We were so loaded that year. Yellowhorn and Blackwater and Graham, and the list goes, Luke, and it goes on and on. But for whatever reason, there were a lot of reasons why that thing didn't come to, the great ending that we all hope. But that's definitely one of them. And I'll tell you what, I got to say, last year's team, this past year's team, was great. I would have loved to have seen what we could do, especially if you put Gabe Gagne back in the mix. And, some of our goaltending, that Sawchenko back in the mix as well. I would have loved to have seen what we could have done in a playoff run this year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I actually think that 16-17 team that lost to Colorado was also stacked. If you remember, he went out and got 2 or 3 AHL guys at the end. So I thought they were going to win, and he really wanted to get a third Kelly Cup because no one's ever done that. So that was a great team as well. And hey, let's move to the schedule if I can. I did a deep dive. It's on my blog of the schedule, and a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. The first one was, last year we had no games on Wednesday night. This coming season, 7. Do you know, I mean, that seemed like a big change. Is there anything behind that other than it's just the way it fell together?
Well, things are, it was, I'll give the schedule makers credit for this year. I know they were, not sure what was going to happen, and it still might be changed. It could be completely different depending on what happens here. When do we start? Do we start in October? It will be delayed if the NHL comes back. Weekday games for us are tough anyway. I know Wednesday is a big church night here in Texas. But, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, pick your poison there. They're all going to be very, very tough. Our best opportunity is those Saturday games. That's why you hope to get as many as you can. I don't like Sunday either. I got to admit, Sunday to me is right up there weekday category along with your Wednesdays, because, a lot of those games, it seems, are always playing during football season, and it's tough to go up against the Dallas Cowboys. Even though, we've got hockey fans that are coming to the games, and we've got hardcore hockey fans, diehard Allen Americans fans. Everybody wants to watch football on Sunday, and we have a lot of Cowboys fans. Much like we say, we don't want to play on Friday in October and November. I don't want to play on Sunday at home, especially during Cowboy season, because I think it really hurts us.
Yeah. The other thing, we actually have one less Friday and one less Saturday than last year. I know that's only 2 dates, but those are big dates that we'll be missing if it stays that way. The other thing that surprised me, Tommy, was Tulsa and Wichita only come to Allen 4 times. They typically are good for 6 or 7 times a year. So we'll see less of them. And I know a lot of fans don't like to see so much repetition. So that's good. And, we're going to have 3 good teams that come in, Cincinnati and Florida and Orlando. So those are nice teams to have come in as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and we, I think our schedule is maybe the toughest it's ever been, because first of all, you start out playing those 6 games in a row at home, but you look, Idaho is coming in the most of any team this year, and then you've got Utah, and Kansas City right behind them with 5, and you're right. I mean, Wichita only comes to the Allen one more time than say like a Florida does, which is very bizarre considering, many times we play them 13, 14, or even in the past as many as 16 times. So it is a bit different, but I am excited to see teams like the Florida Everblades come to town. In Cincinnati, we had such a fun series against them last year, two very, very tough games. And I think that a lot of us felt that if we did, continue on in the playoffs, we might have met them at some point, this past season. So excited to see them coming in town in Orlando. Should be fun too.
Yeah. I've still been writing my ECHL stats page. I have that separate page on Twitter and Facebook that I write, and that's every day. And today I was writing about how many players in the league in the last 3 years played almost every game. And there's like 5 players that played over 200 games in the last 3 years. And of course, there's just one that didn't miss a game. That was Adam Pleskach from Tulsa. I thought that was interesting. But it got me to go back to Kosty's years, because those 3 years, he never missed a regular season game and never missed a playoff game. So I looked that up. And in those 3 years between the playoffs and the regular season, he had like 426 points, 160 more than anybody else in the league. I mean, I hope they put that guy in the Hall of Fame like the day after he retires, because I think you can make an argument he was the best player in the history of the league. He holds a record for the largest margin of victory in the points race. That year he had 125 points. He won the scoring title by 45 points. So I'm like a big advocate for him. And I also came across, I actually included this in my blog the other day. You may have seen it, but last year, who led the Allen Americans in penalty minutes per game?
Alex Guptill?
No, but he's up there. Vandergunst was up there.
Oh,
Frazier was up there. Number 1, Gary Steffes.
because of the limited amount of games he played.
He had 3 penalties. He played 2 games, had 6 minutes, so he has the most. But he had like a roughing, a boarding, and a slashing in that one game. And I remember that game. He was fired up. He was fired up.
Well, Gary does get intense, and I still have a picture in my office on the wall of Gary Steffes involved in a fight. He doesn't like me to talk about that, and he said, "Oh, I probably didn't do very well in that fight." You've seen that picture, I'm sure, haven't you?
Yes.
This is Barry Janssen joining us here on the blog. Couple more questions for you. And I know you talked about this, and you said to me, Tommy, I'm not going to do this forever. At some point, I'm just, I work so hard at this. I get up, so early in the morning to start writing my blog. Have you thought about this? How much longer you want to do this? Because it's a lot of work. And you I know, especially during the season, you put so many hours into it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to just thank, and I know you realize this too, is so many fans have reached out to me, I think because I'm old, to see how I've been doing. And they thank me for writing the blog. I'm trying to write one a week now. But our fans, and I don't even mean just Allen fans, around the league that have followed me, are so dedicated, and they're so thankful, for what I do. But the blog will totally, I may not quit doing it forever, but when Marty leaves, I'm done, in terms of this day to day. What makes my blog special is, as you know, I spend a lot of time with Marty. I go to every practice. I go in there after every game. And he trusts me enough to give me information and know when I can use it and when I can't. And so I'm kind of tied to him. I'm still hoping, though, he passes Scotty Bowman. So that's still another 4 or 5 years. So hopefully I can keep doing it the way that I've been doing it. I've kind of longed to get into some of what you're doing here, video, because video doesn't, you can do an interview in 15 minutes. it'll take you 4 hours to write that up. So,
Right.
I might try to do that. I promise that every year, but I don't get it done. One other thing I wanted to mention from my blog, if you hadn't seen it, Rockford replayed their
I did see that. Yep.
2007 championship. And there's a video they talked to Marty for about 20 minutes about that championship just last week, his recollection of it. And whether you find it on YouTube or find it on my blog, it's classic Martinson talking about that 2007 Rockford championship. So it'd be something I would suggest fans look up.
Last thing for you, outside of the 4 championships, which are the obvious, give me your top 3 favorite moments in Allen American's history.
Ooh. Well, it's hard to not pull them out of, eliminate those championships. I think this year was obviously one of the 3, just because, Steve was so upset as to how things went, and to see the turnaround. I know he won general manager of the year. I think he could have been coach of the year too, to have, one of the biggest turnarounds in the history of the league. I think that's certainly one. One of them is, it actually is from that first championship, is, as you know, I was really close to Brian McMillan, and to see a guy that was kind of a third line checking guy come through the way he did that year. And he was wearing, if you remember, he was wearing a mask because he'd gotten some teeth knocked out.
I do.
So that would be certainly one. And then I'd go back to that 10-11 year. I actually appreciate that year a lot more than I do now. But how good McMillan and Yellowhorn and Graham were that year, 3 guys that all got 30 goals. I don't know when we'll see that again. Each year, I thought we were headed that this year, but then Gagne got sent off, and he got, he was shortchanged on games, and but those are probably 3 of the ones. Another satisfying thing, this isn't related to on the ice, is I've been able to do stories about the players after they have left hockey. I wrote, Brian McMillan just got his certified financial planner certificate, which is a big deal in that business. It takes about 3 years. And Riley Gill just started his construction company, so I got to write about him. And, Trevor started that pool company, and Joel Schwinnard with New York Life. So it's kind of fun writing about the guys after they leave. Looks like we're about out of time, so let you wrap it up.
Well, Barry, thanks for doing all you do for a long, long time, and stay healthy, you and Nancy. And if all goes well, we'll see you for sure in October.
Yeah, I hope I see you sooner than that, hanging out in the office.
Absolutely. Barry Janssen, Allen American's blogger. Thank you very much on the Allen American's podcast.